I'm Charlie Newth. I'm with the SoFi at Work team. So pleased to welcome you to what should be a very interesting and insightful webinar. So to get that going, we'll just start to flip through. For those of you who are yet familiar with SoFi or SoFi at Work, we're on the mission to help people reach financial independence. We got our start in student loans and student loan management, and have since expanded to a number of financial well-being areas. For today's presentation, we'll be spending our time thinking about how organizations are tackling student debt of their workforce, and we've got an exciting panel to walk us through it. But before we introduce the panel, I always like to start the SoFi at Work webinars with just a little bit of background on the current state of student debt. As many of you read the newspaper or watch the evening news, you've probably seen student loans mentioned thousands of times over the last couple of months. So what I did in preparation was just go through and pull out the latest student debt figures, just so that everyone has a grounding of where we are today. The first couple of things is, while there's been a lot of news about student debt forgiveness, a number of programs introduced before the Biden administration, as well as since the Biden administration came into the executive office a few years ago, and there has been a large amount of student debt forgiven. So the current status is about $165 billion of federal student debt has been forgiven. But where does that leave us? There's still over $1.7 trillion in federal student loans outstanding, $1.6 trillion of that being that federal debt. So while we are seeing progress on the forgiveness programs, there's still a lot of debt outstanding, both federal and private, and it represents about 43.2 million Americans that are carrying student debt. So it is still a pressing and urgent item for a number of Americans, but especially the working age population. When we look at the areas that might be having the most challenging managing their certain student debt, one population that comes to mind is first-generation college students. So they're about 3 times more likely to be behind on their payments than their peers whose parents had also attended college or university. And we see a similar statistic when we break down by Black and Hispanic borrowers. So they're much more likely than their Asian and white counterparts to be behind on their federal student debt payments. And there's a couple of key dates coming up that are going to add some pressing needs for that population, which we'll discuss in a minute. Another, I think, interesting way to look at that federal student data is by the population. We often, in the industry and in employee benefits, think of student debt as a Gen Z millennial problem. But what you can actually see here is that increasingly, folks in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s are holding large amounts of student debt. Now, there's been some changes over the last 10 years in who can take out debt for who. So that's adding some of this. So parents and grandparents are now able to take out debt on behalf of their others. But also, as people advance in their careers, take graduate degrees, fill the gap with tuition reimbursement programs, you are seeing an increasing number of people later in their career actually holding much higher balances. Just a snapshot of where this plays out by state. There's actually been overall some nice progress over the last 4 years with the payment pause and the forgiveness programs of lowering this for a number of states. So this colorized map has changed a little bit since the last time we've shown it to you, but some surprising, some not surprising states for where folks have the most student debt. Just a handy piece of information as you think about your talent programs and where you might be either filling roles or opening roles in the 2024-2025 year, just to give you a sense of who it is out there. And one thing that we always like to pull back on or relate this to is some of the SoFi at Work data that we've collected over the last 4 years shows that as financial stress has increased in the workforce, people are spending significantly more and more time during their business days, dealing with that stress, thinking about that stress on the phone with their bankers or the credit card companies. So from our latest statistics, which we collected across the end of 2023 and the beginning of 2024, the average person that participated in this study was spending about 8.2 hours per week, or roughly one business day, when you added up all of their time spent on thinking about their finances, thinking about their next paycheck, thinking about the bills coming due. So quite a large amount of time is, in mind share is being used on this. And that's why our great panelists are looking at creative solutions for helping to solve for that. On the right hand, just some of the negative outcomes that come along with it. That financial stress is increasingly causing people to lose sleep, increased mental health and stress and related issues, lack of motivation, the physical manifestation in relationships as well. So that was a quick run through of just some of the latest data. The session is going to be recorded and the slides will be available, but feel free to hit us up with any questions about the data or how it might be playing out in your organization. With that, I am going to actually start to tee up our panelists, so letting our panelists come off mute. But we've got a great lineup today. We've got some of our benefits leaders from Chipotle, Morgan Stanley, and Athletico. They're here to share their insights on their programs. What we'll do first is I'll ask each panelist to give us a little bit of background on themselves and their organization, as well as their student debt program. And then we'll shift into a more freestyle discussion topics. So for the folks watching the webinar, be sure to drop in Q&A. And as I said, we'll try to get to them in real time. If not, at the end of the session, we've reserved some time. All right. So with that, Adam, I know you are on the line at least over audio, so we'll give you the floor.
Thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Adam Corbin. I am the head of operations for U.S. benefits for Morgan Stanley. I've been with the firm now for about a year and a half. We, as you can see, we're headquartered in New York City. We have offices all over the country, as well as globally. Roughly getting close to that 70,000 employee headcount mark. And really just we've been with SoFi for almost, I think we're right around 9 years, a little over 9 years. We started in March of 2015 and have utilized SoFi, a lot for student loan debt, personal loan debt, and it's really been a great partnership that we've had with them. So really excited to be here to, talk through everything and go through some questions and hear from the other panelists as well.
Great. Thank you, Adam. And Heidi, you're next.
Great. Well, thanks for the invite. Excited to talk through things today with everybody. I'm Heidi Henniff, Director of Benefits for Athletico. I've been with the company about 2.5 years. And if you don't know the name, we are a physical therapy provider all across the U.S. We have about 900 locations. So if you need any PT services, definitely look us up. But excited to talk through our student loan repayment program. We stood that up at the beginning of this year. Obviously, with the high education that our employees need to be physical therapists or OTs, we knew that debt existed. So we stood up a direct repayment program, and we had partnered with SoFi for a couple of years. So they were our natural partner to extend this offering to our employees. And we pay $100 per month to eligible clinical employees. So we're really excited to talk further on this topic since it's near and dear to all of our hearts. So thanks for the invite again.
Thank you. All right, and Daniel.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for inviting me here. I'm Daniel Banks. I'm the Director of Global Benefits for Chipotle. I've been with the organization for 5 years. We've got a little over 3,500 restaurants across the country and globally. The employee count, I should have updated that. We're north of 125,000 now and growing pretty significantly. And as you can imagine, with the vast majority of our folks being frontline workers in the restaurants, very high percentage of Gen Z workers financial well-being, student debt, education, very much top of mind. So we just launched the student loan matching program tied to the Secure 2.0 Act with SoFi at the start of this year, and are really looking forward to getting some data points on that.
Great. Awesome. And thank you for the introductions. And we'll move on to the discussion portion of the session. So I'll kick it off by proposing, and I think, Heidi, I'll hit you up first because I know there's some recency bias as one of the newer program launches, but really thinking about what did your organization do to really identify that there was an issue around student debt? I know, Heidi, you alluded to the advanced degrees, especially the clinicians, but can you give us a little bit of background on that story?
Yes, absolutely. To start, we had a ton of interest with our CEO, and he was really wanting us to do something to help support our employees through surveys with established employees. It came up in engagement surveys where there was obviously an interest and a need. Our TA team was great in bringing forward this as a request and an ask from candidates, especially from our campus team. We hire about 60% of new graduates each year. So obviously they were requesting it, and everything was kind of coming together as the hold on repayment was coming undone. So we knew it was a good time to do something if we're going to do it. But yes, obviously with physical therapists, we know that they now need a doctorate degree, not just a master's, and loans can range from $80,000 to $140,000 or up. So we knew it was a problem, and we definitely wanted to take action to help support those clinical roles that obviously are the foundation of our company. So there was a lot of strands of DNA and input on the requests coming in. So.
And before we go on, I knew there was also some feedback from the labor market directly. The talent acquisition team had also raised some of these concerns. Is that right, Heidi?
Absolutely. Yes. As they were interviewing candidates, it was obviously a reoccurring request. So definitely it was great to kind of know that what we were working on behind the scenes was really going to resonate with current employees as well as new employees that we were bringing in directly from schools. So.
And Daniel, as another recent program launch, would love to hear about the Chipotle journey, especially you had a couple compounding things. One, the laws changed, so Secure 2.0 allowed the student loan qualified matching. But then I think the audience would also love to hear a little bit about the debt-free program in general and how that played into some of your decision-making on the issue.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really proud of the work that I and the teams have been able to do over the last couple of years in really creating a holistic well-being program and benefit offering for all of our employees. We're really focused on getting as much as we can down to those frontline workers, the part-time crew members. So that's really important to us. One of the things that, as you just mentioned, that I'm really, really proud of is that in 2019, we launched our debt-free degree program, which is basically a really advanced tuition reimbursement program where we will cover 100% of the tuition cost associated with, it's about 100 degrees right now across a dozen or so universities in business, technology, culinary, hospitality, agriculture. So if an employee comes and works with us for 4 years, they can get a 4-year Bachelor of Science in computer science, and we'll pay 100% of the tuition associated with that. So that's been a real big unlock in helping our frontline workers, achieve their educational goals, which is fantastic. But as we were going through this, that doesn't necessarily apply to everyone. And so we were very much hearing from employees that, you're helping us go to school or achieve their higher education needs. What about the individuals that have already gone to school or maybe had a different program? And we definitely knew that was a gap that we had to close. So similar to Heidi, we engaged in a lot more employee surveys and listening sessions, and it just reinforced the needs that for this Gen Z, it really is a significant problem. And so it was a nut that we were trying to crack for the last couple of years, and we couldn't figure out the economics associated with it. And exactly as you mentioned, with the new change to Secure 2.0 and allowing the match to go directly into the 401k, that opened up the pathway for us to begin to try and chip away at this problem that is student debt. So really excited to see that change and launch the program.
Yeah, wonderful. And Adam, I know you're newer with Morgan Stanley comparatively to some of us, but so you might not have been around when we initially launched the SoFi at Work program, but I know you're also highly interested in that Gen Z population with the analyst hiring and onboarding. Was there anything that comes to mind as far as kind of thinking about how big of an issue it is for those analysts?
Yeah, so just going a little bit, expanding down into that. So we have a very large analyst population. We have a program where we bring in, it kind of coincides with our internship program where interns get asked back and they start an 18-month analyst program. So they're fresh out of college, new into the workforce, really kind of exploring. One of the top need, we do surveys with them, engagement surveys, very similar to what Heidi and Daniel had mentioned as well, to really understand the population and what their needs are, because that's at the forefront of really what we want to do. But we have this analyst program that starts every summer. It's actually going to be kicking off within the next month. And one of their main focuses is student debt. So it's something that we really put a big focus on. We have career fairs that go on, and we have a lot of sessions for them. And one of the things that we partner with SoFi is we offer an increased benefit to them, to an incentive to look at SoFi for their student loans, which many of them do have, coming out of college. So it's a major focus of us to really make sure that they can really focus on the job itself and worry less about some of the other stresses in life. One of those, most importantly, being debt that's incurred from school and any classes that they've taken prior to joining us.
Thank you. Nothing to pivot, kind of the next logical thing, but one of the most common questions we get at SoFi at Work is, help us think about the size. So when you're doing a program like Heidi's, the size matters, and that $100 per month, while it might not sound like a lot, can quickly add up. So how do we think about the work that we did to really think about how much will this program possibly cost? How many people might be impacted by these programs? And then kind of the $1 million CFO question, which is, how does that all relate to the cost? Heidi, with the direct student loan payment, I'd love to hear a little bit about how Athletico, and I know you work closely with the SoFi team, kind of came up with the modeling, but any insights there?
Absolutely. No, I think last summer was spent modeling for a couple of months, just different options, different ideas. We obviously wanted to focus on clinicians, but what roles are those? So we did a lot of review, a lot of internal folks that own operations within the business. We consulted with them. We took them on as collaborative partners just to get an idea of where we should begin, where we should expand. We looked at different numbers, and obviously we have a budget to keep. So definitely early buy-in and consultation with our CFO. And obviously, the hunt for talent and the retention, especially of, staffed clinicians, was a focus. So yeah, and the unknown was, we knew people had student loans, but we didn't know how much. So we definitely relied upon our great partners, Katie and Trevor at SoFi, to partner with us to kind of get under the hood as much as we could. So that was the unknown. We didn't know the amount, but like you said, even just starting with $100 ultimately will shave off about 20 months of payment. I mean, that's exciting, right? Almost 2 years, and about 17,000. So yeah, we really just did a lot of calculation, a lot of math, and then just went back to the business and our operators to say, here's our proposal, here's our recommendation, and then we kind of landed on the offering from there. So we hope to expand it in the future too. So it's a great start, and we hope to expand even further.
All right, thank you. And Daniel, kind of a different program with the qualified matching, but curious to see your perspective on kind of sizing the issue and any of the modeling and comparing to the tuition, the debt-free program too.
Yeah, very similar to what Heidi just mentioned. We did a lot of work with the SoFi team to get an understanding of data and metrics based on all of the information you guys had at your fingertips. And we had some of the anecdotal information. Like I said, we had been listening to and hearing from employees. We know the overall demographics. We know the engagement rates that we see with other similar type of programs. And what really made us feel more comfortable about it, and you mentioned the CFO conversation. There were many fun of CFO conversations, but really going into it with the idea and understanding that we can put appropriate guardrails around this to build out what is going to be a really amazing program, but have the controls that would be able to, go to that budget that Heidi mentioned as well. So it was really important for us to get those data and metrics points in advance so that we could alleviate any of those objections. We've done a ton of work with our other programs to identify the value and the ROI. And so we came forward with this business case to say, between these controls and the ROI expectations, it ended up being actually an easier sell than I thought.
That was great. And Adam, if you want to share a little bit about how Morgan Stanley is thinking about the issue. And I know you uncovered some interesting facts about kind of the older part of the workforce too, which might have been surprising for folks on the phone.
Yeah, so, and it's a great point. So like our main focus, obviously, throughout all of this initially was, supporting that younger workforce and coming into, coming out of college, with these, heavy bills that they have to pay now. But what we uncovered through the process is that, a lot of our older population that may have kids that are coming out of college are taking on some of that debt to try and help their kids. So we noticed that there was a lot of participation, not only in our younger population, but our population in like their late 40s, early 50s that have kids that are just graduating college and are taking on a lot of that debt for them. So it's something that, spans the entire workforce that we have, and not just, while it's a heavy focus, the younger population coming in and our analyst program, but all of our employees, we've noticed that have really jumped and utilized this. And it's very clear across the statistics that we've received and that SoFi shares with us, that it's something that's being utilized by, all ages within Morgan Stanley.
Yeah, and as I said at the beginning with some of the stats, that's one of always the most surprising things folks find when they start to dig into the data, is just how much of the later part of the workforce is still carrying student debt. And as we think about retirement readiness and getting people prepared for retirement, that becomes a really critical population to solve for. I think you saw earlier that folks in their 50s and 60s, the folks that still have student debt are carrying an average $45,000. So a big amount of debt as you think about kind of preparing people to exit your workforce. I'll make another plug for the Q&A section. We've got a couple of more discussion topics, but feel free to continue to add your questions, and we'll get the group's thoughts on those at the end. So the next area that I'd like to kind of probe into is really around measuring the program's success. And Heidi, I'll start with you. It's a newer program, but I believe that Athletico is already starting to see some really exciting trends that SoFi and Athletico are going to be very pleased with, but also we'll continue to monitor over time. But love to hear a little bit about how measurement has gone to date.
Yes, no, great call out. Obviously, any benefit offering that you stand up, you want to make certain it's resonating with those folks that are eligible. So we've got about 42% of our eligible clinicians that are taking advantage of this direct repayment. And as we're measuring ROI, it does look like we have some early indicators that the turnover rates are lower with the folks that are participating versus not participating. So We have a little more time. Obviously, we've only had 1/4 of data, so we'll continue looking at that. But some other goodness that's coming out of it, I think, is us being able to get a little bit more data too. On average, our student loan balance is 89,000. So that was a data point that we didn't know going in, as well as then our average tenure is 5 years that are utilizing the benefit. And like you just said, folks are having debt from their 20s all the way up into their 60s, and we're seeing that. So it feels good to be able to offer a benefit that isn't just for the young and career folks, but the folks that have been with us for some time. So we're hoping if we can knock off that debt a couple years early, they can then put a little bit more into their 401 and take advantage of those pre-tax offerings. So yeah, so some early goodness. So we hope to see those numbers expand and grow over the years. But it's been a nice start. So
awesome, wonderful. And kind of teed us up for Daniel, thinking about retirement savings is one of the measurement things I'm sure we'll be doing with your program. But I know also with the debt-free program that you have years of thinking about ROI. So love to think about how Chipotle has preemptively thought about structuring some of that analysis for this program.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we have pretty robust ROI data points on that debt-free degree program, as well as a number of other programs. So we have a good sense of what tends to work and what doesn't work, what type of engagement do we see with our employee population. And so we absolutely plan to do a comparative analysis to say we have some hypotheses in terms of how much engagement and participation, what are we going to see on the 401k side, and we look at engagement metrics. Similar to Heidi, we're looking and tracking very closely our turnover numbers. Being in the QSR, the hospitality, we're battling 140% turnover with our frontline crew members. So anything we can do to move that needle results in a significant victory for the company. So definitely focused on that. And the other thing I'm really curious to see is we're actually in the middle of doing an employee value proposition survey. So going out and asking our employees what do they like about the brand, what resonates with them, what do they want to see more, what's working, what's not working. And so, this is going to be a great test to see. We've rolled this program out. Is it working? Is it resonating with the employees? And the initial data points that are coming back is that, yes, it appears to be doing all those things.
All right. Great. And Adam, I'll throw it over to you on the phone on measurement. I know your program is a little different than Heidi and Daniel's, but just, especially with the analyst population, is there anything that Morgan Stanley's thinking about?
Yeah, I would just say, so like Heidi mentioned this, and I wholeheartedly agree, and I think everyone has this in the back of their minds from an employer standpoint. This is a huge retention tool to utilize. Competition for talent, especially in today's world, is extremely difficult. So anything that you can offer that really makes you an employer of choice is something that we are definitely going to look at and see how it can help, with keeping that top talent in the firm versus going elsewhere. But we've seen some pretty great numbers since we started working in March of 2015. We've had in the student loan realm roughly very close to 6,000 applications with more than $64 million in borrowed money, and then on the personal loan side, a little over 3,500 applications with 14 million borrowed there. And we're right around that. So I think Heidi said she was in the high 80s for the average loan balance. Our balance is right around 75K. So in a similar range, but again, it's something that we use as a recruitment tool. And as we've definitely seen some from an ROI perspective. We've seen a lot of good results come in there as a way that this keeps employees with the company versus going and looking for employment elsewhere due to external factors such as this.
Very nice. And Adam, we'll keep it with you while you're on the line. Just thinking about how you're communicating the program. I know we're about to gear up for another analyst onboarding, but I think the group would love to hear about last year's kind of marketing engagement plan that you worked on.
Yeah, so we worked with Jonathan last year on our team at SoFi to really have a robust rollout of this program. So I mentioned that incentive that we do offer. And one thing that I'll say that we felt we got a lot of feedback on this is that it was something that was able to be offered not only to them, but to their friends and family as well. So it was something that resonated really well with that population. But we invited SoFi to do 2 webinars last year in that August timeframe to get in front of those analysts as they're coming into the workforce and starting to work for us, especially with everything around student debt, with individuals having to start repayment of those loans. I know there was a pause for quite some time with COVID. But with that coming back, it was really top of mind for a lot of them, and definitely a lot of stress around that. So anything that we could do to really lessen that burden, and this was a great offering that we had there. SoFi was able to come on, talk through any questions around all the different types of loans that they offer, what is available to the employees, and really make it an easy process for them to sign up and apply for these types of loans and to receive some help in that area.
Thank you. And Heidi, I'll turn it over to you to think about it. I know a lot of people on the line would be very pleased with an over 40% enrollment in a voluntary benefit, but would love to hear a little bit about how Athletico made that communication shift over the last couple of months from the standard program to a direct repayment program.
Absolutely. No, like Adam had said, we partnered with our SoFi team and we did a number of education sessions. The first one, our CEO secretively signed up and attended. So that was great for attendees to see the person that said yes to us participate. And it was great just, taking about 20 minutes of their day to show them how easy it would be to enroll. We did a ton of internal campaigns and education sessions, emails. We did office hours. And what was great is we rolled things out and we opened up the system in October. Things didn't take effect then until 1/1 of 24. So we gave everybody a long runway to get signed up. I mean, there should be no good reason that if someone's eligible and wanted to sign up, that they didn't have enough time. So we definitely wanted to make it easy for everybody to be successful, to be part of it. And what's great is we also then did a huge external campaign. If you follow Athletico on LinkedIn or any of our TA team, we have some great graphics that our cross-functional benefit TA and marketing team put together. So it was great. It was kind of a labor of love. Everybody was really, we had a shared North Star to get excited. And again, it's not the magic bullet that will solve all issues, but it's one more really strong tool to put in our toolbox to attract as well as retain our talented clinicians. So it was really fun I would say, a career highlight to stand this program up. So hope we have many more years of it and can expand and make it even more generous. So.
Oh, nice. I love to hear that. I know I mentioned to Heidi last week that the recruiter activations at Athletico are some of my favorite to see because on LinkedIn, any given week, I get a tag that a Athletico recruiter or talent acquisition professional has announced or shared with their network this program. And I think that's just a great way to kind of reinforce the value of the program, kind of help the candidates connect the dots. So that was a really fun launch to work on.
Thank you.
And another fun launch to work on is Daniel's. So I actually got called into the CMO's office asking me what drove our brand awareness metric that week. And for the first time in a long time, it was something that our team had worked on. So Daniel, I'd love to hear a little bit about the launch from Chipotle's perspective. And it was some of the most positive PR I've seen from any employee benefit launch in a very long time. So congratulations there.
Yeah, it was a great partnership across the board, and thankfully we have a lot of really smart, creative people on the PR and social teams. So earlier this year, we have something that I'm sure everybody is familiar with. It is called burrito season. That's the busiest time of year for us, where everybody loves to go out and get their burritos. And so we actually announced that we were looking to hire 19,000 new employees to help support us during and after burrito season. And we paired that very closely with, here are some of the reasons you might want to come join Chipotle and build a career with us. And our employee benefits was very much front and center. And this student loan matching program was like one of the top bullet points there included in that program. So it really resonated both externally and internally. As you mentioned, we got hundreds of thousands of impressions. There were hundreds of articles written on it. It was a really great and well-received item because we really tried to focus on that. It's this holistic offering. There is something that is available for everyone. And we know, as we've kind of talked about, for all those folks in Gen Z, debt is a huge thing that's weighing on their mind. So having the ability to pay that off while saving for retirement and get free mental health benefits and go back to school if they wanted to, it really resonated with the individuals. And good news is we met those hiring goals, and we're seeing the engagement metrics come through.
Awesome. Yeah, burrito season. It was also nice to be able to share with my parents. Oh, this is what I do at work every day. Connecting it to something that was the news and something so momentous. And kind of our final discussion topics, and it kind of relates to a couple of questions I've seen come in, but it really is kind of the crystal ball. As benefits professionals who've kind of seen a lot of things come and go over the last decade or so, how do you kind of see these types of programs, the student debt programs, kind of evolving over the next couple of years? And we can get started with Heidi, because you're first on my screen, at least.
No, great question. I think for us personally with this program, we'd love to, and this was asked for by employees as well as our leaders, is maybe putting in a tiered approach and reward those folks that are here longer with a higher direct repayment. So that is something that we have in the works for renewal. We'll see where our medical increase might land and what we have to put towards this, but that's definitely a milestone reward and recognition project that we're working on. We'd like to put this into that project workflow. So I think there's something to be said about, yes, taking care of those folks that are new in career, but also rewarding those folks that have given so much. And at the end of the day, it's great patient care that we deliver upon. So we want to really take great care of our employees. So yeah, so we hope to expand that. And then ultimately it would be great to add more roles. We give a lot to our clinical teams. We'd love to be able to expand that to our corporate teams as well. So more to come there. Obviously, balancing budget and other competing priorities always exist. But those are kind of our next steps and our 2 and 3.0 considerations. So, and of course, we'll see where, forgiveness goes as well. So it's an interesting landscape for sure.
Yeah, thank you. And Daniel, you're next on my screen, and then Adam will jump to you right after that.
Sure thing. So we're definitely in analysis and testing hypothesis mode right now. For us, we definitely think that building careers and our future leaders is really important. Education, upskilling, debt removal, we feel is really critical and core to that idea. I don't think this is going to go away anytime soon, and I think it will continue to be a very large arrow in the quiver for us. So we want to test those hypotheses, and I would definitely see us expanding and iterating on this program, and even getting into other areas or avenues of debt that we could help our employees, just give them one more reason to want to stay with us and build a career.
Thank you. And Adam, we'll jump to you on the phone.
Yeah, so I saw one of the questions in the chat that I think you were referencing about, being early adopters of this and this being, the new standard and benefits packages. I kind of already feel like it's already there, to be completely honest. I think, look, like, further education, like going to college, getting degrees, bachelor's, master's, any type of specialty degrees, is only going to get more expensive, unfortunately. So it's not something that's going to go away. And I think I think at the crux of our benefits program is the well-being of all of our employees. We've stood up a well-being board that we have here that consists of a lot of senior leaders in the firm. And this has been one of the most major topics is what can we do, to make employees more happy and more engaged, which ultimately results in them doing better when it comes to their daily job. So it's something that we really have a focus on, and I only foresee us expanding this in the future, growing and really trying to meet the needs of our employees.
And I'm going to kind of merge a couple of questions and some of the questions I got in advance. But, thinking about as you were making the case internally, was there anything that was, particularly surprising at the CFO, CEO level about the state of student debt? A question I've gotten asked over the years is just like, oh, our CEO's been out of college for 45 years. He or she has no idea what's going on. But anything that was kind of like the eye-opening, whether it was a data point or stat, that kind of helped make the case, kind of any aha moment, especially for the CEO, CFO level. And that goes to anyone that wants to answer.
I would say for our CEO, just giving him information from professional organizations around physical therapy. I think it was Daniel that said his CEO, he didn't struggle to make the final decision. Ours didn't either, just with giving him, here's the average amount of debt that people could be facing. And we're seeing that grow and things are only going to keep getting more expensive. So it was, I think that was probably the biggest data point. And obviously the hunt for good talent and retaining talent. So you're spending a ton by hiring and rehiring if people do leave. So it was a smart investment if we're there. And I think Adam made mention, I think these student loan options are going to become table stakes, if you will, where companies are going to get left behind by applicants if we don't have them. So.
Yeah, I would add on from our perspective that, again, very similar to Heidi and Daniel, this was an easy, sometimes it's difficult to get things, approved, but this was an easy one. I feel like, the stats are out there. So arming yourself with the information that SoFi can provide to you around, what other companies are doing. It's a very easy conversation to go to them because, again, in order to keep that young talent and to grow them and to keep them within the organization, these types of things are going to be extremely crucial. And as I just mentioned before, I think they already are. So I feel like if you don't start doing it soon, you're going to get left behind, as Heidi had just mentioned. So I think it's really, really top of mind.
And just browsing a couple of the outstanding questions, there's a few that get into some technical stuff on student loans. So I wanted to, before we wrap, just share a couple of resources that could be helpful for anyone on the line or for your employees. So one thing, I'm just going to pop up on the screen, is a couple of resources from the SoFi at Work team that are available. So we do have a guide to student loan repayment, which is particularly timely right now for employees. And we'll send out a copy of this in follow-up. But it just walks through all of the programs. How does a employee kind of navigate the government, the federal loans system, and the different repayment plans? Why I mentioned it's really timely is that a lot of folks are graduating college or about to. So as they enter your workforce, this is a very kind of a timely resource. And then our Navigating Student Debt Workbook, which is our graphic designers did, I think, a crazy but wonderful job of just putting all of those different programs onto a placemat. So it's kind of like a choose your own adventure and helps people kind of figure out their current situation. So those are a couple of resources that are available to anybody on the phone. We'll get those out in follow up to today. And then also just wanted to address some of the technical questions on Secure 2.0 and Section 127. Again, we'll send these slides out and follow up that have a little bit more details. But Secure 2.0 was the big act that did a number of things. There was 87 provisions impacting retirement savings in the United States. The one we've been talking about and the one that Daniel and the Chipotle team rolled out is specifically around matching for student loan payments as part of your 401k matching. So that went into effect broadly on the 1st of this year. There were a couple dozen companies that have been doing it for the last couple of years, but this really has opened up the door that anybody is able to adjust their plan rules to include that. The second topic, which is the Section 127 of the IRS code. This is the program that relates to Heidi and the Athletico team's program, where employers are able to directly repay student loans for their employees. It rolls into that tuition reimbursement program that's been around for decades. But this is collectively, there's tax favorability up to $5,250. So one of the questions was about this program. It was part of the CARES relief measures to go through the end of 2025. We are still very closely monitoring what is happening at the legislative perspective for the renewal of that program. Not much buzz yet. As you can imagine, Washington, D.C. is very focused on a number of other hot button items, it being an election year and everything else that's going on. But I think here at SoFi, we're optimistic, and there's a number of employer supporters that are also advocating for that program extension as well. And then the last little resource I want to throw out related to this is just a grid I created on helping people have a discussion internally about the student debt types of programs. So whether it's just student loan advice and refinancing support like we're working on with Morgan Stanley, the direct student loan repayment support like we're working on with Heidi and the Athletico team, and then the retirement benefit or the Secure 2.0 benefit like we're working on with Daniel and the Chipotle team. We are starting to hear a couple companies think about a hybrid approach, but this is really just meant to be an informal discussion tool for any of you on the phone that are going to have conversations with your benefits committee. And the final plug I'm going to make before we wrap today is if you haven't seen it, we've got our financial empowerment calendar. It's been chugging along for the last 6 months. We are seeing this year record number of enrollments in some of the webinar series. We do tackle more than just student debt. So while that tends to be our most popular topic, we have series on building savings plans, preparing yourself or a student for college, and how to think about things like 529s and applying for the FAFSA and all that good stuff. As we look to the back half of the year, some things you'll start to hear from us is new graduate toolkits, specifically for folks that are entering the workforce today. Back to school programs for parents, which we'll really think about. You know, if you've got a first year or sophomore student in high school, how do you think about preparing for paying for college? And then, of course, our end of the year support around open enrollment and financial planning. If there's anything you need on those topics, feel free to reach out to your SoFi at Work team member, and they'd be happy to answer them. But with those final plugs, I want to just extend a huge thank you from the SoFi team to Heidi, Daniel, and Adam. It has been an absolute pleasure working on this webinar with all of you. And as I've mentioned, working on the marketing campaigns related to your programs has also been a delight for all of us here. So thank you for your time, and thank you to the audience for participating. Feel free to shoot us questions over email or reach out to your SoFi team member, and we'll do our best to follow up. But otherwise, thank you again, and have a great rest of your day.